Welcome to the Laws of Business podcast. Here, we will share the skills you need to make your business a success. Learn about goal setting, productivity, time management, marketing, and much more. Hear inspiring stories with today's best business leaders and join a hub of thousands of passionate entrepreneurs across the world. And now, here's your host, Jamil Jama.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Law of Business. I'm Jamil Jama, and I interview entrepreneurs that can help you to start and grow your business. And today we have a real special guest from North Carolina, but he's currently living in Florida. Ivan Hunt. Ivan, first of all, Ivan, I want to thank you so much, Ivan, for taking your time out to do this interview, because I know you're very busy. You run how many shows? 3 shows?
Yes.
Because I know shows take up a lot of time and effort. And you run your own business, you're a family man. And so thank you so much for taking your time out to do this interview. I appreciate it so much.
My pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. And before we get to the nitty-gritty, I would like to give you all a bio of who Ivan is and what he does. Ivan Hunt is a coach. He's a coach, a professional certified transformational coach. He's a public speaker, a disabled veteran, a mentor, and an internet talk radio host. He's the founder, organizer of the No Girls Allowed, the men's only meetup group, and soon to be an author. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for your book. He has over a decade of experience in healthcare, financial management, analytics, and accounting. He holds a BBA in accounting and certifications in executive management, and as a 6 Sigma Green Belt. Ivan has overcome addictions, abuse, divorce, and mood disorders, just to name a few of his achievements. And it's a real pleasure to welcome Ivan on the show. Ivan, first of all, Ivan, congratulations with all of your success with your businesses. And also congratulations with overcoming all those obstacles I just mentioned, because they sound very hard. Addiction, and, you know, it must be very hard to overcome those obstacles. But there's a quote by, let me get this quote. There's a quote by, I don't know who made this quote, but there's a quote. Obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. You know what I mean? Obstacles are part of the process, basically. So,
right.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Ivan, thank you so much for being here. And Ivan, before we get to the nitty-gritty, the main questions, I have a few questions for you. Can you take us back on your journey? Can you tell us about your journey, your entrepreneur journey, from when you started until where you are right now, please?
My entrepreneur journey, really, I stumbled into it. I was in corporate, like I said, you know, it says in my bio, you know, I was in corporate. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. I was always taught growing up, you know, you go to school, you get an education, you get a degree, you get you a good job, you know, you get married, and you get your white picket fence in the house, and that's it. That's life. And I did that because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And when I started to really, I was successful in my corporate career. I was in upper management, but I was very unfulfilled. And I knew there had to be more to life than just, you know, collecting a paycheck and just clocking in, clocking out. And I just, you know, discussed it with my wife and said, baby, I need to do something different. And that different thing was becoming a certified coach. You know, I love helping people. And part of coaching is more than just the actual interaction with the client, but it's also a business. And, you know, it's brand development, you know, it's marketing, it's, you know, strategic, you know, advertising dollars. You know, you really have to build the business side of coaching and not just focus on coaching. So 90% of my time is really spent on the business side of coaching and not, you know, the actual interaction with the client. So that's kind of how I got into entrepreneurship.
Awesome. So you're treating it like a business because it is a business. It's not just something you love. It's also a business. So you have to treat it like a business. You're marketing. You're spending money on marketing. Because I used to do network marketing when I first started on internet marketing around six years ago. I've been an entrepreneur longer than that, but I started internet marketing 6 years ago. And when I noticed something about network marketers, a lot of them were not marketing. They were not spending money on ads. And the ones who were successful were spending money on ads. And so they wanted something for nothing. So you mentioned marketing. Marketing is very important. What's the point of building a business if you're not going to spend any money marketing it. There's no point.
Right. And that was a lot of stuff that I had to learn. Even though I was in corporate and I was in finance and healthcare, I was only dealing with one facet of the business. And most of what I was dealing with in the corporate role was really internal operations, internal, productivity, utilization, and stuff like that. But that exposure has helped me in my business, on the business side of coaching. But I've learned so much, about marketing. I never consider myself to be a creative person, but I've had to become creative because you have to utilize and maximize the tools and the resources that you have available. So one of the things I've learned so far about marketing is really the psychographics, not just so much the demographics of my audience or my ideal client, but also what are the behaviors that drive the decision making of my clients, my potential clients. And so I've spent a lot of time here lately really trying to understand and dissect psychographics a lot and the whys behind their decisions to purchase. So that is just something, you mentioned marketing, and like I said, I've just learned so much outside of my normal scope of things.
Yeah, I love marketing as well. And on your website, ivanhunt.com, the first thing I noticed on your website is it says, I make you the CEO over your life. That's the first thing I read. That's the first thing everybody sees on your website.
Right.
So Ivan, what do you mean by are you the CEO over your life? What does that mean, please?
So it's sort of like the example I just gave about the things that I was taught growing up, right? That we're supposed to go to school, we're supposed to get an education, we're supposed to, get this nice corporate career job, we're supposed to get married, we're supposed to do all these things. We're programmed at a very young age to act and feel and think certain ways. Even our societal programming tells us that, our education system produces employees. I don't necessarily think the education system produces independent thinkers. Everything in our society cultivates people to be employees, and it doesn't encourage independent thinking. It doesn't encourage out-of-box thinking. It doesn't encourage you to be an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur or being a CEO over your life means that you're in charge over all facets of your life. So much like a CEO in a business, they do not necessarily have to know every single minute detail, but they have to have a general understanding of everything that goes on underneath them within that corporation. So when you start running your life like a corporation, therefore start seeing yourself as a CEO, now your life takes on a whole different dynamic, and you become, your confidence increases. You become like you have more control over your day-to-day life and not just clocking in and out of life.
That's awesome. That's real awesome. I love that, Ivan, the CEO of your life. It's the first time I heard that. Did you invent that?
I won't say I invented it, and I won't say I didn't invent it. I hadn't really heard anybody say it directly that way, but it was something. So what they call your elevator pitch, right? So what do I do? Well, what resonated with me, because I was in corporate, because I understood what the dynamics were within leadership in that type of organization. Well, why don't I become CEO over my life? And it was a concept that I really kind of have been playing with for probably the last 10 years. When I had to make certain changes over my life, I had to realize that, wait a minute, I need to be and think like I'm the CEO/president of my life. And if I don't, then I'm going to be reacting to life. And if you're reactive, then you're guaranteed to be at least one step ahead. Whereas if you're proactive, at worst, you're even with life.
Awesome, Ivan. So Ivan, how do you go about shifting your client's perspective from being an employee of life to becoming the CEO over their life?
Great question, Joe. the biggest thing is I have a process that I like to use, and I call it break, BREAK. So you're breaking free from the old, and you're starting to keep moving towards your future, your ideal self and your authentic self. Now, a lot of times people don't really understand what the building blocks are within their life. So that's kind of what the B represents. What are your building blocks? What is your belief systems? What are your core values? What are your top 3, top 5 values? What are your non-negotiables? What is your philosophy towards life? What are some of your morals? What are some of your principles? And once people start identifying those core things, now that builds up that building block. That creates the foundation for which you can start building your brand, and your brand is yourself. And then you start looking at, well, what kind of roles or rules govern my life? How is the social programming? How have they impacted my life? What kind of experiences have I had?
So that's the R. That's the R, and the experiences is the E. Yeah.
Correct. So you can see that the transition is very seamless, right? As you start going through the process, and then you look at A, which is alignment and assumptions. How aligned am I with my core values, with my building blocks? What assumptions have I made that were rooted from my experiences in my past that are blocking my future? And then K is, keep it moving. That's the name of one of my podcasts, is Keep It Moving. So K is keep it moving, kinetic energy. Take action. Let's go. We can't sit stagnant, right? So much in a corporation, we have to develop a service or a product. And our product is whatever our purpose and passion is. What is our interest? What is our calling? What is our niche in life? And you kind of can find those things as you start working through that break process. And it really allows people to kind of have those aha moments and say, okay, you know what? I can make certain decisions that are outside the box. I can make certain decisions that better me. And I do ultimately have more control over my life than what I initially thought of.
That's a great acronym, break. I love that. Cool. And Ivan, what is the main point that you want? We've covered quite a few cool things in this interview, but what is the main point that you want the listeners to remember in this interview?
I had a question. My background, obviously, like I said, is in finance and accounting, so I love numbers. And I was studying one day, and I typed in Google, what are the odds of me being me? Or what are the odds of you being you? And I stumbled upon a gentleman named Dr. Ali Benazar. And he posed that question. And his answer was 1 in 400 trillion. That the odds of you being you is 1 in 400 trillion. So I started thinking about that, like, man, that's wild. That's hard for me to wrap my mind around. And I'm a numbers guy. So that was really, really, it fascinated me. It struck my curiosity. And so I started exploring a little bit more. Well, the life cycle of the sun is 9 billion years. So the probability that there'll ever be another you is really 44,000 life cycles of the sun, because if you divide 9 billion into 400 trillion, that means the sun lives and dies over 44,000 times before there'll ever be another you. The probability that there'll ever be another you. So if the probability is that minute, then there is something that only you can offer the rest of the world. And I want to know what that is. I want to experience what you have to offer to the rest of the world. And I want you to take ownership of that unique quality, ability, tone, maybe. You could be a singer, you could be a negotiator, you could be all kind of a networker, you could be all kind of things. But whatever that thing is, I want to know what it is. I want to experience it, because there's nobody else in this world who can give me that type of experience. So there's a selfishness into it also. But I also think that once we start identifying and living within that 1 in 400 trillion reality, then our world as a whole will become more in harmony, because everybody's in harmony with the universe, with their, whatever their belief system is. You're more in harmony with yourself, and you become at peace with yourself. And there's no more competition. There's no more animosity. You're in harmony. and then you're in harmony with your fellow man. And I just think it brings everything full circle, and it brings about peace.
Definitely, Ivan. So if anybody wanted to contact you, Ivan, where can they find you? IvanHunt.com.
Yes. You can find me at ivanhunt.com, IVANHUNT. You can email me at coach.com. You can also email me at info@ivanhunt.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Ivan Hunt. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under the same name, Ivan Hunt. Pretty easy.
And what about your podcast? You got how many podcasts?
Well, thank you for asking, and I appreciate that. As a fellow podcaster, I appreciate that. My podcast is called Keep It Moving with Ivan Hunt. So you can find it on iTunes, all podcast outlets, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbean, Spreaker, what else? The whole gamut of them. So yeah, I'm out there. There's an audio version, and then I also do a video version. And then there's another one that I'm starting up with a group of guys. We're calling it Our Voice 360. So that will be released in beginning of June. So we're excited about that one too.
Awesome. Ivan, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview. I enjoyed it so much.
I appreciate you, Jamil, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
I enjoyed it as well.
You're very good. You're very good.
I enjoyed it as well. And if anybody enjoyed this interview, the listeners I'm talking to, please share it with somebody you think this interview will benefit. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section and subscribe. Also, subscribe to Ivan Hunt. And I'm Jamil Jama. This is The Law of Business. Thank you all very much for listening. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Laws of Business podcast. Find out more about us on thelawsofbusiness.com. Thank you for being a part of our journey.